This is our home. The same home for each one of us. A home which has never known anything but war and deep suffering for our people. A home of never-ending battle, conflict, death and suffering. Why? Have you ever asked that question? Why? Our home, this insignificant little dot in the vastness of infinite and silent space, is identical in nature as it presents to every one of us. Yet each one of us sees it very differently indeed. And the understanding of this is key to why our lives know nothing but suffering, pain, conflict, war and death. Seen clearly, without any distortion, we live in the very same home, on the very same ground. A ground of creative presence in the only sacred moment of life, this moment, the only moment which truly ever existed or ever will exist. But we do not see at all clearly. None of us sees clearly. To see clearly is to see simply, to see without any added information distorting, colouring or biasing what is being seen. We do not see clearly, and in this understanding lies the understanding of why our world has lived through 15,000 wars in the past 6,000 years of recorded history. In this understanding lies the understanding as to why we live on a planet which, this very moment, holds 36 trillion in tax havens for the whims of a very few, and yet 6 million poor children die every year from no food in their bellies. In this understanding lies our only potential to end this desperate situation of divided humanity our race has never been free from in all the years of our recorded histories. To end wars, to end divisions between mankind, to end the stupidity of finding security in lording over the lives of others in positions of power, prestige, and immense numerical wealth. We need a change in this world, and the change demands an ending to what came before. Otherwise, where has been the change? Are we afraid to die to how we have always lived? Unless we can accomplish this, how can we possibly, as a race, be reborn into any life worth living in at all? A life of deep relationship, a life of love, cooperation, empathy, and care for one another. A life of death, for no life is found in a continuing carried past. Life is not found in tradition. Life is eternally new in nature, and life is eternally now. And to meet this now, we can never be involved in the seeking of a security in a conceptually projected future. We must be truly alive now, which means we must have died to the past. We must die to the past every moment, as life carries no remembrances and projects no conceptual future. Life seeks no destination of arrival, no betterment than its present perfection, seeking to build back better into an ideological future is a continuity of the divisive nature which came before, and the continuity of dead remembrances of that which came before. We need find an honest and truthful understanding of life, one we come to find for and by ourselves, not one led into by any oppressive authority or guiding hand, For no matter how wise that hand may be, the flame of the candle of the understanding of your life can never be lit by any other. We need to awaken our own intelligence. This day, as all days, our world is at war. The open, obvious, transparent brutality which must result between divided people, plus the hidden wars of deception, the dark whispered plans, completed in hermetically sealed rooms, the desires of a few powerful, manipulating and cajoling the many into their dark pathways of personal gain and their limited ideology of a better future. These are the inevitabilities to how mankind has traditionally and been educated to approach life. We never look at life simply. We never look at life as it is. We always seek to better it. Can perfection be bettered? We complicate life so much with our unnecessary ideas, born from the corruption of our educated and carried pasts, which divide us one from another. We project our images onto life, our shared home, and it is these inner images projected outwardly in our insistence that our world come to see the conceptual acceptance of the image-based conceptual security I divisively cling onto, seeking my psychological security. In this process, denying actual physical security for everyone may be more adventurous in their pursuit of turning this world into their dark image. Some are certainly more powerful in this obscenely divided world of power and wealth, a world where economics is held in greater value than the life of a poor child. But we are all of us, to a greater or a smaller extent, responsible for the catastrophe which is the continuity and evolution of the human race, the race within which evolution appears most certainly to have taken a wrong turn. Divisions between us are the necessary ground for war. A divided house can never stand, and these conceptual inner carried educated inner divisions are what lead our race to the current obscenity of our gross wealth divide. The same ideologies which bring conflict to every area of our lives, inwardly and outwardly. These divisions are conceptual in nature, one and all, and rooted deeply into our brains as children. The acceptance of finding security where no security can ever be found, in a divided piece of ground accidentally born onto. The acceptance of finding security in calling ourselves a patriot. The acceptance of the traditional, centuries-old, handed-down beliefs and dogmas of a divisive traditional religion, educated societal class positions, and political and other ideologies. Jew against Muslim, Christian against Muslim, black against white, wealth against poverty, nation against nation, ideology against ideology, brother against brother. We psychologically hold on to these traditional divisive values because we have been educated, programmed in a way, like artificial intelligence is programmed this day, brainwashed at a very young age to find our psychological security in belonging to the traditional long-standing values which inhabit our geographical location of birth before we arrive. Too young we are to understand the value of questioning, and we grow to find psychological security in belonging to our educated little group. Our group offers us psychological security, offers us shelter and acceptance to the handed-down dogmas and insistences of another. And this psychological security we find in living within this educated approach to life, which is the same for all of us, divides us in life, for none of us are educated to the same traditional principles of ideological continuity. The divisions inherent to this holistic approach to life our race communally suffers denies the physical security of all our people. We are valuing psychological security in traditional ideas above and over the actual physical security of our lives. Which of these is more important? Psychological, ideological, conceptual security, or the physical security our very life existences depends upon? And yet our home, our world, this still beautiful though battle-scarred planet we call Earth, remains awaiting for us to wipe the cobwebs of centuries past from our eyes. The true nature of our existence, the meaning of our lives, can only be found now, not in viewing our lives through teachings and insistences of men long gone. No matter the perceived wisdom written in the writings of such men, their wisdom can never be yours. And the blind acceptance of the words of another, even the words of the wise, come to deny any investigation one may instigate oneself and bring one to the true understanding of one's life. For and by oneself, we need to find the truth of life. Truth is not to be found in accepted words or images, in beliefs, in values, in divisive ideologies and identifications. Truth of life is the same for each one of us. And here in this magnificence of relationship and understanding, which is the only true intelligence, we come to find the ground of all relationship. The truth of life is the same for each of us. This universe which gave birth to us is the same universe, is the same for each of us. What differs between us and brings us to conflict is what we think about it. And what we think about it, in great part, is traditional hearsay, unquestioned education, ideologies, beliefs, and accepted conclusions. We are not standing on any solid ground of understanding. Truth is not a destination, not an ideology of betterment to be planned towards, for what continues from the past. There is no other continuity than the past. And the past is never new. To this living universe, the past is dead. And so we have divorced our lives eternally from the sacred quality to be found only in meeting this living moment in crystal clear view of its depth and beauty. Living from the past, we find ourselves living in a divided and conflicting state, for no man alive has ever shared the same past experiences. Free from the past, our eyes are now unburdened to meet each other in great depth of relationship, viewing life conceptually. My truth against yours brings us to conflict, and when truth becomes a matter of opinion, a personal thing, it ceases completely to be truth. Truth, in its truest of natures, can never be yours or mine. Truth is shared between all of us, and herein lies our access to caring for each other and a ground of true sanity. Truth is a living thing. The movement of this universe is a living thing. The sacred quality of this moment of life is a living thing. One cannot travel in time into a conceptually projected future to meet a living thing. To travel in time is to seek a fixed destination, and truth is not a dead, conceptual, ideologically projected fixed destination. One must cease travelling one's own isolated conceptual journey. The continuity of educated concepts must come to an end. One must cease the seeking of success, the valuing of divisive traditional religious ideologies, the feelings of superiority in belonging to one nation over another, the seeking of power and immense wealth, and the brutal immoral controlling of the lives of others. Such corruption of the human heart makes possible. One must bring all one's concepts, which only divide men and distort and colour one's view of life and truth, to an end. Otherwise, how can anyone view this world, this life and death, in the magnificence of truth? How can anyone view the infinite, empty, and silent space of this universe we find ourselves living within? Healing our broken world is not a matter of moving positively towards any betterment. This can only bring further destruction, for one man's better is another's worse. Each man's future is a conceptual projection from his past, and so acts in great ignorance towards the needs of others. Better is a concept related to our inner educated and divisive sense of self-importance, related deeply to past experiences, which always differ between us, and which our lives this day are built upon. Do you hunger for a life worth living in a world of peace? Do you hunger for a world in which the governments work for the people and not for themselves? A world in which we more readily and rapidly spend hundreds of billions in feeding and caring, in bringing war to end, than we do in the valuing of this sorrow-filled continuity of destruction? Do you hunger for peace and a sense of deep meaning to your life? Then the process you must engage within, passionately, unceasingly, with every nerve and fibre of your body, is one of negation. You must look inwardly and negate every societal divisive conditioning which prevents your life from holding such beauty and meaning this day. The most damaging of all illusions we carry is in the educated understanding of the structure of our own inward psychological state, the movement of thinking. Look within and question. Look at this restless bag of words and images within, fears, desires, the constant and continual seeking of pleasure, the movement of accumulation, never-ending ambition, the valuing of gathering more, as if this meaningless occupation were the true value and meaning of life, the identification to a nation, a so-called religion, a political outlook, all centered around a concept of an inner self, me. This inner me, this human identified ego, a continual flow of never-ceasing words and images, tiresome in nature, is the totality of all these educated and accepted traditional ideological identifications. Me is this movement of words and images, and yet we have been educated to view our lives not as this movement, but as an observer to this movement. And here we find inner division and division is always the ground for conflict. Here, we understand the reason why so many of us suffer inner psychological conflicts, depressions, worries, anxieties, and why our pharmaceutical giants profit so much from an inner educated phenomenon they are completely incompetent to ever treat. We have been educated to view ourselves in this inner world of words and images as a thinker of thoughts, not as a center within the field of thinking. It is this misunderstanding we need bring to revolution. Thought is memory. There is no thinker. The thinker within thought is a memory within a broader field of greater memories. And it is within this inner world of educated memories which lies our divisions between each other. For this inner world is built from all concepts memorized and educated. This is movement within memory, which is knowledge, which is the past. And the past can never meet the creative sacred movement of this living universe ever found now. This inner turmoil is the continuity of educated conceptual memory, centered around an ideology of an isolated self, the individual, which is nothing other than an illusion. Humanity is one. Herein lies our lost relationship. Herein lies our ability to meet each other in clarity and to care for one another. This inner self, this educated conceptual stream of words and images, is the very root of all chaos we experience in life, denying any meaning or any peace to our lives, inwardly and outwardly. Study this inner area. Accept no man's words, including this man's. Find out for yourself and stand on the only true ground of understanding possible, the understanding which arises from your own undistorted, unadulterated vision. Inwardly, we come to find an inner educated division between thinker and thought. There is no thinker. The thinker is a movement within thought. Test these words. Accept nothing. There is only thinking, of which the thinker is part. You do not think thoughts. Thoughts think you. You do not have a brain. The brain has a you. This is the inner corruption of humanity which divides our lives and has led us repetitively to war since the dawning of all time. Truth is not a fixed destination. There is no traveling to truth. There is only traveling to greater misery, confusion, and illusion, for a journey instigated out of necessity is a continuity of the past, and the past is a bloody, war-torn field of death. Truth, in reality, is not so very far from where you are. Only you must come inwardly to complete and total revolution. Your inner nature inwardly must end for truth to be seen. Your mind must find space, not live on a ground of ever-moving words and images. To come to see the ground of truth, you must meet this life as silent as the universe which gave birth to you, to find the truest of meanings of your life and death. Only here do we have any chance at all to come to meet in direct relationship, freed from the colouring and distorting images which come between us and prevent such meaningful relationship. Rooted not anymore to what we think about life, which is what we have been educated to, told to, and accepted to think about life. Now rooted in the magnificence, the living and dying of universal truth.
can this whole movement of the past, which is time, which is thought, end? Not thought in our daily life. We're not talking of that. We're not talking when thought is used to drive a car, to write a letter, to write a poem, write this or that. There, thought, knowledge is absolutely necessary. We are talking of this whole psychological movement which is based on memory. So we're asking much deeper question, which is the self, can the self, the me, the ego, all this self-centered activity, which is the movement of memory, can that self end? Not by discipline, by control, by suppression, or identification with something greater, which is still another movement of the self. Can that self end? You might ask then, how can, if the self ends, what place is there for me in society? What shall I do? Right? Right, sir? First end it and then find out. Not the other way around. This is a very, very serious question. Nobody can tell you in the world or beyond the world. Perhaps most of us try to get instructions beyond the world. Nobody on earth can tell you how to end it. But if one observes all these facts without any reactions, I observe the fact that I am hurt psychologically because my daughter, my son, my father has done something which hurts me. If I can observe that hurt without a single resistance, without any action that I should not be hurt or keep the hurt, most people do. All through their life they carry their hurt. But to observe this hurt, psychological wound, without any reaction to it, then one sees that hurts disappear altogether. Right? So, in the same way, just to observe memory as it arises, see the nature of it, the evolution of it, the whole nature of activity of our daily life is based on this. And memory is very, very limited. Thought may invent the infinite, but thought being itself limited, its infinity is also limited, finite, but may pretend there is infinite. So, all this implies complete freedom. Right? Not only freedom from something, but the quality of freedom that is not based on any reaction, any reward or punishment. To inquire into that also, one must understand the nature of death, dying. Are you interested in all this? Does it even amuse you? Or are you, madam, all right. See, one must inquire very quietly, not hysterically, into this very complex problem. Dying or coming to an end is what we are concerned about, talking about, because that's part of our life. Not only we're born and all the education and all the troubles and all the anxiety and so on, but also death is part of our life. It's there, whether you like it or not, whether you are British or French. It's there. Whether you are young, middle-aged, or old, disease, accident, which is there. And one must understand what it is, as one must understand life before death. We have been trying to understand together what is before death. Fear, wounds, sorrow, pain, anxiety, labor. Going to the office from morning till night. All that's part of our life, living. And also the ending of all that.